All right, we are live. It is Wednesday night. I am here with John Sonmez, Bulldog Mindset, and Mantidote. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good, man.
Great.
Good.
Doing really good.
John, you're our special guest tonight, and I want to thank you for being here tonight. For anybody who's watching or is going to watch this here in the future, go ahead and tell everybody what you're about and what the Bulldog Mindset is.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm John Sonmez. I run a company called Bulldog Mindset and a YouTube channel of the same name. And what Bulldog Mindset is about is really getting rid of the victim mindset, really, taking full responsibility for your life, ownership. I teach men how to be men, and I focus on the different areas of your life that you need to master as a man. The fitness side of it, getting healthy, getting in shape, pushing yourself, discipline, the finances side, whether it be building your own business or investing or, just getting your money right. And then the dating side and relationship side of if you're afraid to go and talk to women, to learn how to do that. Or if you're in a relationship and you're trying to, become the masculine man that you need to be in a relationship in order to sustain that relationship. Those are kind of the things I teach. And it's all kind of built off of really a stoic philosophy. A lot of what I talk about and I teach is based in this idea that we need to focus on what we can change internally and not external factors, right? So much of, I think, society and life and people are focused on external factors today, things that they can't change, and they complain that life is unfair. They complain that they're given the short end of the stick, and they have this victim mindset. And so I try to focus everything on, okay, we know that life is inherently unfair, but what can you do about it? What can you actually accomplish in your life, and how can you take responsibility for it? So that's really what the Bulldog Mindset's about.
What do you attribute this victim mindset to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of different factors. Really, what I call the pussification of men today. Just this. I think what happens is when you have easy times, right? When things are easy. Stefan Aarnio, who recently passed in the last few months from cancer, wrote a really good book called "Hard Times Create Strong Men," and it was based off of a poem that goes something like, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and then weak men create hard times. Yep. And so it's a cycle, right? And I believe that what's happened is about an 80-year cycle. And where we're at right now in society is it's been good for a long time. It's been really, really good. We haven't had any major wars. It's been peaceful, and since World War II, and that generation of men that went through the Great Depression, that went through the hard times where there was actually millions of people dying in the world, not where we have this thing that's going on. I won't say it on YouTube, just because YouTube will censor, but what's going on now today, and people are freaking out over a very small amount of people dying. We become weak, right? And so I think that the good times have created a group of basically weak men that have grown up, and they have brought us to a period of time where we're going to have hard times. Hard times are next.
Now you had an incredible transformation. How long ago was that, since we'll say your transformation from being, if I remember, you said you had a 46-inch waist? That's great. Yeah. And I mean, the fact that I've met you, I can't even imagine that, but you have shown me the pictures. And so it's one of those things to where it's like, wow, what did it take for you to make that transformation, to go from a weak man to a strong man?
Yeah, so I mean, there were definitely different things along the way. I think that you have different periods of cycles in life, just like we talked about the bigger cycle, where you have these growth, and you're kind of underground for a while, and then you come up to the surface. And so the last cycle, which was the most important one for me, was when I remember going to the store to buy size 46 pants because the 44 didn't fit me anymore. And that was the period of time where, like, I had that realization, like, John, you're fat. Right up until that point, I could look in the mirror and I could say, oh yeah, I just have a little bit of a belly or whatever. But when you're buying 46 size cants, you have to really acknowledge you're fat. And so I realized that was kind of a moment, a shocking moment in life where I realized that, I tend to think that everyone sort of has this illusion in life that they're going to, I call it, everyone thinks that they're going to be a rock star someday, right? It's this whole idea that like, well, someday in my life, like I'll get all the girls, I'll get the lifestyle, I'll make money, I'll be a rock star, I'll be famous, whatever. Like we somehow have this illusion in our head. And I had that illusion in my head that somehow like things were going to work out and be great. And I realized, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for you. Not down this path. And if you want any of these things to happen, if you want to become wealthy, if you want to become attractive, if you want to get in shape and be, the kind of stud that you think you are in your head, then you better actually make it actually happen. So that's where that caused that spark that caused me to have this moment of panic of like, this is my one and only life and I'm wasting it. And the path I'm going down is not the path that I want. I'll never get to experience these things that I want to experience if I don't, turn around and change my behavior now. So really that transformation for me became a matter of life or death, because I didn't want to live the life that I was going to live with the path I was going. And I didn't want to miss out on the life that I could live. And so that really pushed me down that, to really see things clearly, right? Before, I think there's so much justification that we do in our heads. We make excuses for ourselves. We lie to ourselves all the time. But I had finally like pulled the wool off of my eyes, and I realized, and I saw things clearly, and I saw what I looked like. That was the beginning of it. And then clearly who I was. I realized I was a coward. I realized I was lazy. I realized that I was not very masculine, and that I wasn't very confident in all of these things that I had kind of imagined myself to be. And then I realized that, well, now from that point, I could develop those things if I wanted to.
So one thing in watching your videos and a lot of your content, you seem to align, which I think is real positive, align your success with your physical fitness. Is that correct when I say that?
Yeah, well, I would say that it's sort of, it goes both ways, right? So I firmly believe that the external is a manifestation of the internal, right? Whatever your world is, whatever you are internally, it will manifest itself externally, both in your appearance and in just in your world, right? There's actually a really good book on this, an old book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It was written in like 1920, I believe. And it's a really short book, but it's all about the idea that what as a man thinketh is how he becomes, is what his world becomes. And so I think there's two elements to it. So one is, these internal changes in mindset cause the external changes, right? But also from the physical side of it, the one way to develop mental toughness that's guaranteed is through physical discipline, right? As you punish the body, as you bring pain upon yourself, as I like to call it, it creates mental toughness. It is a way to change yourself internally by going through that, right? Because sometimes we can't figure out, we don't have the key that we need to open the lock. We can't figure out how can we get that motivation? How can we get grit? How can we become mentally tough? How can we become the kind of person that we want to be? How can we make those changes? Even though we idealize, I know who I want to be, but how do I become it? And the answer is pain. It's walking willingly into pain. And so through that physical pain and that enduring, that's why I started doing endurance sports and running marathons, running ultra marathons. Also, it was because it's a gateway that unlocks that that change inside you that is so hard to access unless you go through that. I feel like in the Eastern philosophy, the yogis understood this. I think there's like three paths to enlightenment. One of them is and I'll mess this up, but I think the fakir, and then basically what it comes down to is one way is through study, right? Through just like study of religious texts. One way is through religion, like finding God, spirituality, meditation, and then the third way is through the physical. That's the physical pain, denying the body, right? Going through that. And so for me, like my spiritual journey, I found that the easiest path is through the physical, that I can push myself physically, that it awakens something spiritually.
Do you think that people have to hit a low point I mean, it seems to me that a lot of people have to hit a low point before they can rise up.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I feel like you do, but it doesn't have to be the low point that the world necessarily sees, right? You don't have to be broke, you don't have to be homeless necessarily, but you have to be broken inside, right?
Mhm.
And so you could be on the outside, because one of the low points I hit was when I became retired, right? At 33, I'd finally hit my financial goal of becoming retired young, and I went to Maui to go live on the beach for 2 months and sip Mai Tais and play video games and do whatever I wanted. And that was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. Because I lost my purpose in life, and because I had finally accomplished this goal that I had put everything into, and then I realized that it wasn't the goal. That, like, you know, when you get something that you want, it's not what you get, it's who you become that's important. And I had lost track of that. And so for me, even though to everyone else in the world they would have said, "Oh, John, you've made it. You know, I was in pretty good shape at that time. You know, I had published some books. I had, you know, had retired, had all this real estate," and people would have said, "Yeah, you've made it." But for me, that was my rock bottom low.
Why was that your rock bottom low? I mean, what, like you said, there was something inside you. I mean,
Because
why would you call? I mean, most people would call that a ridiculous success. I mean, you know, having built your empire by 33 years old, living on the beach in Maui. Um, you know, I don't know about playing the video games. I never was much into video games, but that whole thing to where you're doing what you want. So why do you call that your low?
well, because I had my whole goal in life up until that point was reaching this thing. It was to reach this end final destination so that I could finally rest, so I could finally be happy, so I could finally enjoy my life. And what I realized when I got there was that there was no magical moment where I was suddenly happy and complete. I had been chasing, you know, chasing the dragon. I had been chasing something that wasn't real. Because when you chase that, when you think that, it's the same thinking at a higher scale where, you know, maybe you've been in a situation where you're like, well, if I get this raise, then I would be happy. If I get this promotion, then I would be happy. If I get this girl, I would be happy, right? And you do it at some point. You do it, right? You get the raise, you make, oh, I'm making six figures now, or you get the girl, right, the girl of your dreams, and then you're not happy because you realize that that was something that actually, that it might have brought temporary happiness, but there's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. Fulfillment always comes from a job well done. And so, you know, for me, what happened was I had everything riding on this horse. You know, I had bet everything on this one avenue, and I put everything into it. And then as soon as I achieved it, not only did I not achieve happiness that I expected, it wasn't so great as I expected, but I had suddenly lost all this purpose, because everything in my world, when I got up in the morning, I thought about my goal. When I worked hard and worked extra hours and was doing real estate deals I didn't want to do, I was thinking about my goal. It was like, it's all going to be worth it when I get there. And then when you get there and suddenly you have no purpose, you have no meaning in life. And, you know, we think that you know, money and girls and cars and success is what brings us happiness and meaning in life, but it's not. What really drives us in life is growth and accomplishment and purpose and having a mission, especially as men. And when you accomplish something and you think it's the end, you lose that mission. And so I had to actually shift my thinking and, you know, how I set goals now, because I think a lot of people set goals wrong. And this was my problem, was I set my goal on what I could get, not what I would become. So when you
Mhm.
set goals on what you get, you inevitably reach the goal, get there, and it's a one-time event. Like it's gone, and now you've lost your purpose. But when you set a goal as to what you become in the process, then it's not about rushing through and getting to the goal. It's about, like, the goal is just a way to stretch you in a direction to make you grow. And it's that whole process along the way that you're living your life, right? So the difference, I would say, is, you know, when you're shooting for something to get it, you sort of like try to pass on. It's like living for the weekends, right? You're not really living your life. You're saying, when I get there, then I'm going to live my life, right? But when your goal is who you become, then you're living your life every step along the way. And that's what life is. You realize that life is a struggle, that the challenge, the obstacles that you face every day, that is what life is. There's something better than that. That is life. And that's what makes life fulfilling.
So with your mindset, you're not one of these guys that works for the weekend or hates Mondays. I mean, to me, that's the person that works for the weekend or hates Mondays. To me, that's a bad mindset. It just seems like you see that so much. The weekend is coming. Oh God, it's Monday again. You know, and how do you pull a guy out of that or a woman out of that mindset?
Yeah. So I would say that the thing is, and again, it's not like I'm perfect in this, right? I struggle with this, right? Because sometimes I'll be doing my work and I'll be thinking, oh, I just want to get through this. I need to get through the stuff. And then I'll have to stop myself and I'll have to say, wait a minute, John. No one's forcing you to do any of this stuff. You're choosing to do this. You're choosing. Everything in life is a choice that you've made. And so let's not rush through this. Let's enjoy this, because this is like, either enjoy this and embrace this as part of your life, even if it's hard, even if it's painful, or don't do it. Right? There's those two choices, because if you feel like you're compelled, then you're just wasting your life. You know, you might as well rather be homeless and wander the streets. At least you're doing what you're choosing to do, and accepting it, rather than, you know, to feel like you're compelled to do a thing. So really the solution to it is to look back and to ask yourself that same question, right? If you're living for the weekends, then, you know, what do you think is going to happen that is going to suddenly change and make your life, like you're putting your life on pause and you're not really living your life. Instead, you can live and enjoy every single moment of your life. And if you can't do that, then you need to do something else, right? You got to make a choice. And again, it's not that everything will be necessarily enjoyable, right? I've been training for a 100-mile race, and you know, I'd go on 20 or 30-mile runs, and it's not fun. It's painful, but I'm present in the moment, realizing that I'm making this choice, and that makes it bearable. That makes it where I'm not just trying to get through this. I signed up for this. This is what I want to do. I'm living my life, even though it may be painful. And so it's the same thing with living for the weekends and doing your job. It's like, okay, well, if you're doing your job, how can you be present while you're doing that job and think, I'm here because I want to be here, and I can put my all into this. And, you know, and it's really a shift from, I think so many people are focused on what they're doing, but they need to be focused on how you're doing it, because what you're doing doesn't matter. How you're doing it matters. You could be a janitor mopping the floor and be happy your whole life if the way that you're doing it, the how, is in such a way that you feel like you're fulfilling some kind of mission or purpose, or you're bringing meaning to it in life. And it's up to us to create meaning, right? I mean, I really believe that the people that have a nihilistic view of the world, they're correct. Maybe the world has no meaning and there's no purpose or anything. It's all just random chance. But that doesn't matter, because what we do and what we have to do in our lives is bring meaning. We have to decide that we're going to create meaning, and that meaning gives us purpose, and that purpose is what brings us fulfillment in life. So you've got to figure out, even if you're in the shittiest situation, the crappiest job, how can you make it meaningful to you? And if you can't, then you have to change the situation.
Do you think a lot of people, men, women, I think people worry about what other people think more than they worry about what they think themselves? And I think that's a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, especially for men, right? I think one of the things, and I was talking about the 21 convention, that you really need to learn to be a man. One of the things that really I feel like makes you a man, the core attribute of masculinity, is having your judgment come from internal yourself, like not caring what other people think. And I think when people say, oh, don't care what other people think, they don't really understand what that means, right? Because it doesn't mean just do what you want and don't care about people's judgment. It means it means something more than that, which means that, like, you judge yourself, like you decide internally what you believe is correct. You evaluate your own behavior. So, you know, for example, what you said about, like, you know, retiring young and being in Hawaii and everyone thinking I was successful. Well, it doesn't matter if the whole world thinks you're successful. If you internally don't feel like you haven't lived up to your full expectation, that's what matters. And for me, that's what mattered. And it's so, you know, I could have a day like where I do, you know, something like, maybe let's say that, you know, I have a day where I run a 20-mile run, and I know I didn't put my best into it. I know I didn't put my heart into it. I know I didn't put everything I could into that, and I kind of slacked off a little bit. And someone will say, you know, people on Instagram will say, "Oh, great, that's a great job. You did such a great job. I can't believe you ran 20 miles. You know, good time, whatever." And I'll know that I don't deserve that, because I don't care what anyone else says. I only care, like, how do I feel? Do I feel like I did the best job that I could? And if I don't, then I haven't achieved the level of success that I want to. And so I think it's so important to not just not care what other people think, but to care deeply about what you think about yourself.
I have a question for John. So I know you probably get this asked a million times, man, and I know there's a million different ways to an angle to take on this. But how does someone either find fulfillment or make fulfillment in what they're doing? Say, like, for example, someone is not feeling fulfilled. What would be the direction that you would suggest, the first step that they move into finding fulfilling work? And like we discussed, work is our life as a man. That's our purpose, is our work. So what can they do to find, what first step do they take to find that fulfilling work that they can change, that they can grow into as a person throughout the course of their life?
So actually, you know, I think what you just said at the end is the key to it, which is, because if you're trying to find what you can do that will make you fulfilled, you're searching in the wrong place, because the mindset has to shift to not focusing on what, but focusing on how you do the work is important. It doesn't matter what the work is. I mean, you could literally be digging ditches, and if you are doing it in such a way, in the right spirit, knowing that you're doing a service, that you're doing your purpose in life, and seeing it through that lens, then you will find fulfillment in it. Like, it doesn't, because, and I say this from the perspective of, you know, having started off, you know, I didn't come from a very, you know, my family was, my dad was military, you know, enlisted. My mom didn't work. I didn't have a lot of money growing up. And when I got my first job, you know, in computers, I was like thrilled, and I was making $10 an hour, and I thought I was making so much money, and I was happy. And then I thought, well, you know, if I could just become a developer, and then I did that. And then, you know, and then I got to this point where I was teaching developers, and I was like a senior developer, and I was making this. And I kept on thinking, well, if I could just do that. And there was a point where I was this, you know, senior software developer making a ton of money. And I thought, well, you know what, if I could just write my blog, because I had a blog at the time, if I could just do that for a living and not have to work for someone else, then that would be great. I'd be happy. And then I was like, well, if I could be an author and write a book, and then I did that. And then it was like, well, if I could just do videos, because I really like doing videos, you know, and you know, even today, right, I wake up in the morning sometimes, and it's like, I'll be doing coaching calls and charging, you know, a huge amount of money to just talk to people, and I won't want to do it. and I'll think, and the reason why I mention all that is because, like, there's this misconception that if you find something that you love, some work that you love, that it won't feel like work. And it's not true. Like, whatever, anytime you're making money, like, you're always going to hate the thing that you love, right? It's two sides of the same coin. And so if you're searching for something that's going to make you happy, some work that's going to make you fulfilled, you're wrong. Instead, you need to figure out how to be fulfilled at whatever you're doing, and then choose what to do, right? It's the opposite.
You change the mindset on how you do your work, not so much changing the work or the environment first. You change your mindset on how you do the work first.
Exactly. There's actually a really good documentary that I saw on Netflix. I think it's called Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and it's about the sushi chef, and he's like, I think he's been working at the sushi restaurant. It's one of the most expensive sushi restaurants in Japan, but he's like considered one of the best sushi chefs ever, and he's been doing it for like 30 or 40 years every day, and there's not very much variety. I mean, it's like the same thing. There's, you know, but he's just mastered it, everything perfectly, and he enjoys his work because he's so fulfilled from it. And how you could look at that. I didn't understand the documentary when I first saw it. I had to watch it again, because when I first saw it, I was like, wait, he's doing such a simple thing. He's been doing this for 30 years or whatever. How could he possibly be excited about this and find this fulfilling, you know, doing this every day? because I didn't get it. And then after I watched the second time, I got it. It was because it wasn't had anything to do with the work. It had everything to do with how he was doing and what he was bringing to it. And he, in his mind, he was like, it's a simple thing, even just making the rice, right? Making the rice perfectly, that he would master. And he could keep on working on mastering this simple thing, just cooking rice. And that was what brought the fulfillment. It was how he was doing it. It wasn't what he was doing.
I don't want to take this off topic, but that sounds a lot like Zen, the study of Zen. You're
Yes.
probably familiar with it.
Yeah.
John, we have a question for you here real quick. This is from Carolina.
Let's see. Does he coach women? If he does, what are the differences they observe between coaching men and coaching women? Yeah, I do some coaching for women. Not as much. Obviously, most of my clients are men, but I have a couple of women coaching clients. And it's interesting. I mean, it depends on what the context is, right? For women, as far as like the dating and whatnot, it's a completely different ball field, right? I mean, men see things completely different. Just as a simple example, I was coaching one woman who was asking me if I thought I was interested in her, and it was kind of interesting because I was like, well, is he talking to you? And she was like, yes. And I was like, well, to me, it's obvious, and he's obviously interested in you. He wouldn't be talking to you if he wasn't interested in you. Whereas with guys that I coach, it's the exact opposite. Whereas, a girl smiles at them or talks to them, and they automatically think the girl's interested in them, and she's not, right? And so that's just kind of one of the differences. But in terms of just like life in general, I think a lot of it comes down to the idea that the difference between masculinity and femininity, right? It's because masculinity is all about like crushing obstacles and driving through goals and being on a purpose and analytical and being on your mission. Whereas women are more feeling their way through life. They're living more in the present moment, and they have strengths in that area. So it's harder for them maybe to be motivated to accomplish things, or like the world is impressing upon them that they need to be more like a man and more mission driven and focused. And that's not their nature. There's a time and place for it, and there's some purpose to that. And men have to be present as well, have some feminine aspect to them. But for women, I think that the thing that I really, try to figure out is like, well, first of all, like, is this what you actually want to do? Like, do you feel like you need to do this because society has told you that you're worthless as a human being if you're not driven on a mission like a man, right? Or is it something that you actually want to do? Because once you figure that out, then we can figure out what direction to go from there. But if you don't have that figured out, then you're going to be doing things for the wrong reason. It's going to be really hard to do things when you're doing things for the wrong reason.
So it's just funny because I don't know if you guys can read that coffee cup that I have. Men and women are different.
Yes, they are. And it's a beautiful thing.
It's a very simple statement, but it's pretty much everything you just explained, John, that men and women are different. And I think the sooner people start to realize that, the sooner women start to realize that. And I hate to say it, but the sooner men start to realize that they aren't women.
And stop placating.
Yeah.
Stop placating.
That too. So, but John, I want to get back to your physical fitness. This is something I wanted to talk to you about. Is you have been doing this, and I guess it was 100-mile run. Now I've got to ask you, was that 100 miles in one shot?
So yeah, so to give it some context, so I've been running some like marathons for the last probably like 4 or 5 years. And at the beginning of this year, I decided that I was either going to I was either going to quit running or I was going to run 100 miles in one shot. That was the plan, so train for a 100-mile endurance race, an ultra run. And so I started training. I actually started training a little bit of last year. I've been training for about a year and a month or two. And, a lot of obstacles came along the way, but I did run a 50-mile run. It was a race I signed up for, but the race got canceled. So I just decided to run it solo. So I just ran 50 miles myself around the Bay in San Diego. It took me about 8.5 hours to do it, about 10-minute mile pace, average pace. And then from there, I've been training to run 100 miles. And actually, I was supposed to run it in 3 weeks from now. And again, the race got canceled. Got canceled multiple times, actually. One time, I went all the way up to Flagstaff, trained there for a month. I was supposed to run this 100-mile race from Flagstaff to Grand Canyon. It got canceled. And so I came back to sea level, and I was messed up. I tried to run it myself, but I was just messed up from the altitude and from the overtraining. And so I had to scrap it at like 32 miles. And then I started training up again for like a 6-week or 7-week block. And I've been running like, for the last few weeks, I've been running like 80, 85-mile weeks. But I got sick.
Man. That's crazy. I mean, for somebody who runs probably every day, that even sounds like a lot. But probably to the average person, it might not sound like a lot. But to me, I'm like, that's a lot in a week. I mean, that's a lot of running. Think about, think of the average person. I don't think the average person could run 1 mile, to tell you the truth. I really don't. I don't think nowadays the average person could run just 1 mile. So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it's a lot of miles, but yeah, so about 3 weeks ago, I got sick, maybe like 2 weeks ago with a pretty high fever, like 104 fever for 3 days. And I was supposed to run a 25-mile run and then a 20-mile run, and I had to miss those runs. So I tried to make up the next week, but I still haven't 100% recovered from it. And I just kept on going deeper into the hole. Like I'd go and run a 20-mile run and I'd feel worse and worse instead of, I should be getting more fit and getting better. But I think that whatever I caught just ran me down. And so this last weekend, on Friday, I was supposed to run a 15-mile run. I only made it 14, and I was dying at 10, which, I mean, at this point in my fitness, that should be easy, right? And then I was supposed to run 30 the next day. It was kind of my biggest ramp up. And I couldn't even get out of bed. I was just like, I was just broken. So I think it's a combination of being sick, maybe a little bit of overtraining. You know, I've been hitting it hard. And so I had to give up the goal. So as of now, I've stopped running. Because there's just no way I'm going to be able to do the 100 at this point. I was really close. I got the 50 done, and I trained for it. I did, every training I could, but sometimes, it's just out of your hands. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, that's crazy, man. I was proud of you because I know you really, I remember I think it was probably a month or so before 21, and your race had got canceled, and you decided you were going to try and go ahead and do it anyways. So, I mean, the fact that it's funny because you got a guy like yourself who signed up for this big race and then decides that he's going to run it anyways. How many people would do that? Probably not many, So I've got a question for you here from Supernome 369.
Okay. Let's see. What is a good way to explain to a young man how to be on their purpose and what that means? Oh, this is a great question. Okay, so I have good answer for you. So what I see this as is, one of the questions that I've been asked a lot is like, how do you find your purpose in life? That's kind of what I'll answer here. And so I've thought about this a lot because a lot of people have asked me this, and I finally sat down one day and it kind of came together for me. So the way that you find your purpose is that you find the one thing that you would do no matter what station you are in life, no matter what circumstance in life, and the one thing that no one can stop you from doing. So in a sense, you're already on your purpose. Everyone's on your purpose. It's just recognizing what it is. So for example, for me, my purpose in life is to learn as much as I can about a thing, to synthesize that information and simplify it, and then to teach it and inspire other people with it. That's like, no matter where I've been in life, I've always done that. When I was a software developer, I learned about writing good code, and I taught that, and I taught it to other people. As I went through my transformation in physical fitness, I taught that. As I went through my transformation in masculinity, I taught that. That's what I'm doing now. No matter what I've ever been at in life, I've always done that. I just didn't always recognize that was my purpose. So the way if I was a janitor, okay, I would figure out the best way to mop the floor, and I would teach all the other janitors how to do that, because that is my purpose. And so what I firmly believe is that every one of us, we can't help but live our purpose. We are living our purpose. It's just we're not in recognition of it. And as soon as we recognize what our purpose is and we understand it, you know, and for each one of us, we can go and do that exercise, like figure out what is the one thing that's that echo in your life that you've always done that no one could stop you from doing. And now when you can really recognize what that is, now you can bring that purpose meaningfully to your work. And this kind of connects to what we were talking about before, where it's not what you're doing, but it's how you're doing it. Because if you understand what your purpose is, now you can bring the how to everything you're doing, right? Now you can figure out how, in my capacity as someone who's digging ditches, can I, you know, do this thing that I do, right? How can I, you know, and usually your purpose is some way going to contribute to society or contribute to other people, right? It's gonna be something, a gift that you have, something that you're doing, because that's how we're wired, right? What brings us the most fulfillment and happiness and joy in life is really our contribution, right? And so we have to feel like what we're doing is meaningful. And so if you want to be, as a young man, on your purpose, you know, first of all, figure out what it is. And then once you figure out what it is, focus on figuring out what you can do that's going to best bring out that purpose, right? So again, this is about doing things in the right order, right? So many people are trying to figure out what they should do in life as opposed to how they should do it. And when you figure out what your purpose is, now you can say, okay, I know what my purpose is. How can I best apply this? Where would be the best place, or where do I want to apply? Because it really doesn't even matter where you apply it, because you're going to be fulfilled in life as long as you're doing what you know that you're meant to do, regardless of what how it basically plays out in life.
Okay. I'm going to ask you another question. Do you think that everybody is capable of being a leader? Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because you say your purpose. And when somebody's on their purpose, to me, that means you're a leader in something. Do you think everyone is capable of being a leader, or are there some people that are followers or tribe members? In other words, they bring a purpose to the tribe. They're not that leader, but they do have their own significant purpose in that tribe or with that group. So can everybody be a leader?
So there's two answers I would give to that. So one, I think the most important one, which is this, is that you cannot be an effective leader if you're not an effective follower. If you can't lead, you cannot. If you can't take commands, you cannot lead. And so
that is a great answer, man. That I didn't expect you to say that, but I love that. Go ahead, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was great.
Fine. And so many young guys today, they're trying to just step into leadership positions without learning to follow first. They want to be life coaches. They want to, like, you know, show people how to make money online and start these businesses, and they haven't actually, actually done anything in their life. They haven't actually followed and learned and been mentored yet. And so, you know, they'll have their time, but they've got to learn first how to submit, right? You cannot dominate until you can submit. You have to learn. And you know, one of the things I think that was really valuable for me growing up, a lesson I didn't really realize, is that, like I said, my dad was in the military, so I learned chain of command, right? Because I learned real quickly that, because I misbehaved as a kid, and I learned every time that I did.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say the first person that a young man takes orders from is his father. And that's beautiful, in my opinion. At least that's I think is the natural order, the proper order. Definitely. Once you learn to take orders from your father, respect your father, then you can become thinking about being a leader. And so I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%. And yeah, and especially in the military, you know, when I would mess up, my dad would get in trouble for it. And so I realized that, like, chain of command is a thing, and I learned how to take orders, and then I realized the importance of it. I learned that my dad takes orders, but he commands me, and then he takes orders. He has a superior, and that's how things go. And so in that respect, everyone can be a leader, but first they have to follow. First they have to submit. If you can't submit to a higher authority than yourself, then you're not going to be a good leader, because you have to recognize. Because one of the key things I think that I just did a video on this topic is recognizing power and power dynamics. When you have power, when you don't have power, right? A lot of young people get in trouble today because they don't understand. You know, they're going up against institutions that have great power over them, and they're trying to rebel against when you're in a position of power, you can exert that power, right? If you're a good leader, you know how to do it in a way that's not acting like a tyrant, right? But when you're not in a position of power, you need to recognize that you need to defer to that power and submit to that power. And even if you don't like it, right? If you don't like it, then what you can do is you can gain your own power and it become stronger than that power someday, and then you'll be in that position. But I think it's really critical. But to the second part, I think, to answer that question is that, yeah, everyone can become a leader, but not everyone will. And that's the thing, because I think a lot of times people say, because it's the same thing, I'll make a video about how you can start your own business or how you can be a top 5% guy, right? And then people will say, well, oh, everyone can't be a top 5% guy, because if everyone was a top 5% guy, then no one would be a top 5%. And I'm like, well, my answer to that is everyone won't. But you can. Like, because everyone won't, you can. And it's the same thing with the leader. People will say, well, everyone can't be a leader, otherwise no, you can, but see, everyone won't be a leader, so you can. And also, it's in different contexts, right? Like I said, it's you can be a leader being part of a tribe that has a leader by leading the people that are that are of lower position than you, or that are lower in the hierarchy than you, and bringing them up. And as you bring them up, it will elevate you.
Well, let's do this. Let's get into, since we're into leader mode, let's get into like business, because you coach guys in businesses. Say like a guy like me, I have a construction business. Say a guy like he has a landscaping business. Do you coach people on specific businesses or any business that they bring to you? In other words, say I'm a carpenter. I want to build my business. Can I come to you and say, John, how do I do that?
Yeah, so for the most part, what I try to focus on is sort of what I've done, right? I feel like that's the most relevant. So I mostly will coach guys on building an online business, building an audience, right? Building a product, membership, something like that. If you want to create a YouTube channel, how to build and market yourself. It doesn't mean that I don't occasionally have clients that I'll teach them on or help them with their other types of businesses, because the fundamentals are the same, right? I mean, every business has three elements. You have to have traffic, you have to have some marketing and sales process, and you have to have a product that you're selling. So, those three fundamentals are there. But I try to work on mostly the things that I've done, right? I think a good coach can kind of look at any situation and see what can be changed and what they can assist someone with, because sometimes it's really like, being a good coach is not necessarily about having all the answers right off the bat, but it's about looking at and hearing someone explain what they're doing and what their process is, and being able to see, like, okay, based on this, it's being able to see what they can't see because they're inside of it, right? And to have that kind of wisdom to be able to see. So yeah, so I think there's some benefit to that, but definitely, as far as like the main things I coach in business would be building online businesses, investing in real estate, and in getting your finances correct, things like that. So
you're sticking to kind of like your wheelhouse, but would you say overall most businesses kind of have the same business model, whether it's do you coach guys in like a brick and mortar business, that type of thing too?
Yeah, some, again, mostly online, but the example I always use is basically, if you look at like an online business versus a brick and mortar, right? Let's take like an online business versus a donut shop. Okay, the first element is traffic, right? So if you're an online business, you have to get traffic. You have to get it from somewhere, right? You're either going to create content like on YouTube or blog or something like that to have organic traffic, and you're going to use that to get your traffic, or you're going to pay for ads in Facebook ads or something like that and get traffic, right? Now, if you compare that to the donut shop, it's the same thing, right? It basically, like, if you have a donut shop and it's on a street, you have traffic, organic traffic, as people walking by, right? So, depending on where you place that donut shop or where you open up the shop, what's going to be your traffic, and then that's basically your only option for organic traffic. The second option is paid traffic, right? So if you're going to do paid traffic, then you're going to have to do some kind of advertising. Are you going to mail out flyers? Are you going to put an ad in the newspaper? Are you going to, do some kind of TV commercial or radio ad, right? That's all, the paid advertising. And then the second level is the marketing, right? So for marketing for an online business or, sales, we could say, you have some kind of sales process, right? So for an online business, you have a sales funnel. You have a page where someone can go, where you can collect someone's email address, and then you can give them an offer and then have a way for them to pay. And if you have the donut shop, it's the same deal. You've got a menu where they can see what's available. They can see their options. They can pay, and then the final element, you've got a product. For an online business, the product is usually some kind of digital product or a membership or something like that, and you have to have some way to deliver that. For a donut shop, it's a donut. So I think those things are very similar, and so if someone's having a problem with their business, it's usually in one of those three areas, right? It's like, and mostly it's in traffic, right? Most of the time the problem is that they do not have enough traffic, and how can they get traffic? Because if I have traffic, I can make money, right? If you have a shop, if you have a busy street corner, you can probably open up pretty much any kind of shop that's reasonable, and you're going to make money. That's kind of usually your first problem. Same thing if I've got a YouTube channel that has millions of viewers, or a webpage that has millions of viewers, I can figure out something to sell that I can make money.
Gotcha. So all right, well, we did fitness, finance, and let's jump into dating. Now, I know that this whole dating coach thing has kind of been a shit show from different we'll just say different podcasts that I've seen. And when I first, we'll call it, entered the manosphere, I didn't understand why someone needed a dating coach. Okay. After spending a few years here in the manosphere, I totally get it, whether it be social media, just the environment of the world. So talk to me about your dating coach advice. Now, I did see you on a certain podcast one night, I'm sure, and you jumped on the live stream, and I happened to be there because I was checking this channel out, and I'm sure you know which one it is, and you were the only one that had your face, so it's that channel. And I don't mind saying who it is, but it is MGTOW Dictionary, and I'm interested in exploring all different parts of the manosphere. I don't always align with everybody or agree with anybody. It takes me a while to align with anybody. Yeah. So my opinion is that yes, a dating coach is necessary for some guys, without a doubt. Like at 21. You took the guys out, some of the younger guys out in the field. And these kind of terms to me are kind of new. I say new within the past 3 years, like a field, taking guys out in the field, running sets. I mean, to me, that was, what the hell are they talking about running sets? So, but and I don't know if you agree with me, but what it is, I think what you're doing when you take a guy in the field is getting him familiar with kind of the surroundings and how to interact. And then I've got another question after you answer that one. So tell me when you take a guy in the field, what you do.
So I mean I think that's a good example, because like with at 21, one of the guys, it was he had never had any success. He had never cold approached, and he had success that night. I gave him a few pointers, pushed him in the right direction, and we got him going. And then he messaged me on Instagram, about a week later, and he's like, this changed my life. Like, I'm having all kinds of success now. It's like, it was just enough to get. So I think it can happen pretty instantly, but I mean, he was responsive to what I was giving him. Really what it comes down to, and this is kind of funny because there's a lot of intricacies of it, right? That we could talk about how to behave and how to interact. And it definitely gets advanced, I think, in terms of interacting, which really comes down more to masculinity, like being masculine rather than what we would call game, right? Some of the other channels that I frequently jump on as a guest, we talk a lot about game and things like that, specifics. But What primarily I do when I coach guys, I kid you not, 90% of it is just getting them the balls to go up and talk to a girl, because that's 90% of the guys' problem. They've either never done it, or they're just afraid to do it, or they can't do it on a consistent basis. And you know, if you had no quote game at all, and all I taught you was just to have the balls to go and talk to every single girl that you're interested in, you'd have success. You'd have phenomenal success beyond what you've ever experienced in your life. Right now, if you actually are smooth and you have some game and you have some technique and you know how to interact, which you're going to develop anyway just by doing that, then yeah, you're going to have a lot more success. Okay, but yeah, it's funny because so much of what I work on with guys is just getting them into the mental place where they can actually go and do this, and so many guys don't realize what the rejection rate is, right? So I think there's this misconception. A lot of guys, especially like you're talking about, some of those guys that are on that other channel, they think that it's all about looks, and it's so not all about look. And no matter what, they're like, oh, you don't know what it's like, you don't know what it's like to be me. And I'm like, well, look at my older pictures, and I do know what it's like to be you, but it's not, because they have this misconception that it's all about looks, because they don't understand what the rejection rate is. They don't realize that you could be the best looking dude in the world, and you're like, if you're batting 4 out of 10, you're doing phenomenal. That's the best you could possibly achieve. And so they don't realize that for an average dude, you might be batting 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 30 or 1 out of 40. And that's just part of the course. And so if you're not ready to face that amount of rejection, then that's what I have to teach you how to do, because it doesn't matter. If I teach you all kinds of techniques and how to be this just alpha masculine man, and how to talk and how to pass shit tests and all this stuff, it doesn't matter if you haven't actually passed the bar of actually having enough experiences and exposures to actually putting in that stuff to use, because the biggest problem you're going to face is that 29 out of 30 women are going to reject you. So how are you going to deal with that? If you that's the thing that you have to deal with. So it's funny, as much as there's depth to this thing, primarily what I do is just push guys, give them the confidence, and give them the push that they need to just go out there and do it.
Okay, well, you kind of brought me right into the next question I was saying earlier, is game. Okay, what is game? Now, game to me is the ability to actually speak to a woman without any fear. That's game. That's what I grew up with. I've never had a fear of speaking to a woman, but I think game has been misinterpreted to lying to a woman to get what you want.
Right.
Am I right on that? And that's kind of what I'm seeing from, again, I'm diving into different subjects, whether it be MGTOW. I always thought MGTOW was close to black pill, but I guess it's not. So, and then there's different versions of black pill. I think maybe there's not different versions of black pill. I'm still kind of figuring that out, but there's definitely different versions of MGTOW, which could be guys screwing a doll, or just men going your own way is actually a good thing. But so let's get back to game. To me, game is just the ability to go and speak to a woman truthfully. And I think you really push that point. And I know I'm probably jumping to that specific podcast where you jumped on there, because I was really watching you try to explain this, and I really think you were doing a good job. So I think a misconception is that game is lying to a woman to get what you want. So
right. So I'll start at the higher level. So game itself, the way I consider game is my simple definition of it is the ability to get what you want. That's what game is. Because game applies to all of life, right? Like, to have game in my mind means that you know how to operate in such a way that you can get what you want. Now, that's again, that's a very broad definition. So someone could really have game and be dishonest. They could get what they want in a dishonest way. No, that game is probably not going to work for them in the long term. It's probably going to backfire on them, because if you do that enough times, you're eventually going to get burned by doing that, and it'll catch up to you. But regardless, I'm not here to judge someone's morals, but that's what I consider like the purest form of game is to figure out how to get what you want. Now, what I was talking about on that podcast was I was talking about the difference between manipulation and leadership, right? Because I think they were saying, well, game is manipulation, and I disagree that that game is manipulation, because what it comes down to is it's the same exact the power of influence can either be used for your benefit or for the benefit of others, or a mutual benefit, right? And if you it's the same exact skill, right? A leader and a manipulator are exactly the same skill set. One of them is for the benefit of yourself only, to the detriment of another person, and the other one is for the benefit of the other person. And so that's what the difference between being a leader and a manipulator. And so, but it's all the power of persuasion, right? And that's what you learn, and that's what really game is the power to persuade with your words, right? Someone who's a smooth operator, someone who has game, someone who has social skills. There's someone who has influence, who has the power of persuasion. And so it's really, again, it comes down to, how are you going to use that? Are you going to use that for the benefit? And when I'm teaching guys, I'm teaching them to be honest, right? Because if they're honest and they, and I, at 21, I was telling those guys, I was like, every time that you meet a woman, you should leave her better than you found her, right? In the sense that if you're going to, whether it's for a night or longer than that, she should think, this guy had an awesome experience with this guy. He treated me well. It was a wonderful experience. It's something I'll remember forever. And that's the way to approach life and to approach people in general. And you can do that and have good game, and do that by being honest with your intentions. Like, so many guys are, they're dishonest, right? They're trying to get something out of someone, and they're not being upfront about what they want, right? As one of the things I teach guys is to just be upfront about what you want. What is it that you want? Don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it. So many guys are hiding their sexuality. They're hiding who they are, and they're trying to basically manipulate. And that's not, first of all, it's not the best way to actually achieve what you want. Honesty works way, way better. And second, when you do things in an honest, straightforward way, and you're direct about what you want, then you create a mutual beneficial experience instead of an experience that you just benefit from.
I'd like to add something to that. So you're being honest with the women, but when it comes to your own personal mindset, where you might not have the physique that you feel like that would get all the girls, or you might not have the finances that would get all the girls, or whatever excuses that you're putting in your mind, you fake. You manipulate your mindset, not the woman. You manipulate your mindset, faking it till you make it. You believe it first before it actually comes into existence. But you don't manipulate the woman. I just kind of wanted to just share my perspective on that. Just add to it.
Well, that's kind of like, I heard the whole thing. Well, oh, John, you're only teaching guys. You got to have confidence. That's all you need. Well, confidence is a real important part of anything. And I don't give a shit who you are. If you're not a confident man and you walk up to a woman, we can even dive deeper down the rabbit hole. And we'll say that some guys say you're not even supposed to walk up to that woman and talk to her. In other words, she has to choose you. In other words, choosing signals is the only way that you are going to get this woman. She has to choose you. And I'm going to 100% disagree with that, because I think that's my opinion. I've lived 58 years on this earth and have had plenty of success with women. And I can tell you that I will not I don't want to say let a woman choose me, but I think I'm the ultimate chooser at the end of the day. It's my life. I'm me. I choose who I want in my life. And it's nothing against a woman, but I don't think a woman should be the official say on who they want to bring in their life. So go ahead and talk about that, because
No, I
a
agree.
couple of
Yeah.
things really, like, you know, I'm like, well, I've lived it. There's a
The
difference.
thing about a woman choosing, she's choosing from about 5,000 different options.
Well,
But in other words, I would agree with that, and I would say it's not about just saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna wait till the woman that woman of my dreams comes to me," and that I would completely agree that that's a terrible mindset.
yeah, like, okay, let's go back to it then, like what you said, man, and what John says. So, John, you think it's perfectly okay, which I do too, to whether you'd be out or I could be at a grocery store, I could be at a convenience store, and so actually open your mouth and speak to a woman. Wow, what a concept. Jeez,
Right.
you know, what a great concept. Now, some people think that's wrong. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, how are things going to happen if you
Yeah.
don't do that, right? I mean, we are, as men, we are, what is built into our DNA as men is to be hunters. We are hunters. Absolutely, to our core, we enjoy the thrill of the hunt and the kill, and that's what we are as men, and that is what drives us, and that instinct is built within all of us. Now, a lot of guys have to learn how to tap into that hunting instinct because they've lost it, because they've become soft, because they become weak. But that's the key. And when you talk about like choosing signals, it's a ridiculous thing. It's like, does the deer say, okay, I'm going to let this lion kill me? No, it's not going to happen. It's ridiculous to reverse things that way. But all of society has reversed the roles of men and women, and so it's no surprise that we see it in that, and even in the red pill manosphere that guys. But honestly, you know, again, I don't mean to like you know, smack people across the head here, or to hurt feelings, but I'm going to. But the guys that tell you to wait for choosing signals, they're weak. They're afraid of women. That's the only reason why you would say that, is because you're afraid, and you don't have experience. Because believe me, after coaching so many guys and personal experience myself, I mean, okay, so I'm 6'3", I'm pretty jacked, you know. The number of choosing signals that I get is so small. So I can imagine, I mean, if you're just an average dude, how the hell will you actually ever have any success with women at all? If I just, you know, just look at choosing signals, I would have a very small selection of not the best woman that I would want anyway. Whereas the average dude who doesn't have a lot of things going for him, how is he going to possibly you know, have any kind of chance, you know? And I'm not saying this to be arrogant or to be cocky. I'm not trying. That's not my intention at all. I'm just trying to say that, look, you know, it's a false hope that these guys are giving other guys, and the reason why they're doing it, I'll tell you why. Again, I don't mean to call out people, but the reason why guys are talking about choosing signals is because that's what their audience wants to hear. Because it's a popular thing to say, right? Anytime, let me tell you, you know, the best way to be popular, okay, is to tell people what they want to hear. And unfortunately, most men are weak and they're pathetic, and they're scared. And so the best thing to tell them is, oh, you don't have to go out and approach women. That's a scary thing. So you should wait, just work on yourself, and then women will come and approach you, and they'll give you choosing signals. That's an easier message. And a lot of people are gonna jump all over that message and say, oh yeah, that's great, because it makes them feel good about themselves. Because it's a much harder message to tell guys, hey, look, no, you're a fucking wuss. You need to step up as a man. You need to go out there. If you see a woman, I don't care if you're scared, go get her. Go and try and face the rejection. That's a harder message. Guys don't want to hear that message, and so they're rather going to listen to someone who's telling them what they want to hear. It's the same thing with the looks thing, right? With the black pill and the MGTOW, right? Those guys, they're attracting a huge number of guys, because with the black pill guys, they're saying, oh, it's not your fault. It's not because you haven't worked on yourself or anything like that. It's just because you don't have Chad genetics. You're not 6 foot tall, and you don't have a chiseled jawline, and it's not your fault. You're not the right race, whatever it is. And so women only want the Chad guys. It's women's fault. It's society's fault. It's not your fault. And that's a popular message, as opposed to the message that I give guys, which is like, no, it is your fault. like I mean, sure, you know, life is unfair, and you might have been dealt a shitty hand, but what you do with that is your responsibility. You know, and the same thing with the MGTOW guys. They preach this false message of telling guys, oh, you know, women are evil and they're horrible, and society's messed up, and and you can't trust them anyway, and so you should just live without them. And again, they're saying it's not your fault, right? You're actually rejecting women instead of them rejecting you. But that's not true. The truth of the reality is that the reason why a lot of guys go MGTOW, not all guys, but most guys that go MGTOW, is because they were sent their own way. They didn't go their own way. They were sent their own way because they were constantly rejected by women, or they never even approach women to actually be rejected. And so it's easier to say that it's women's fault and that it's not their fault, and so that I'm going my own way, I'm taking my ball, and I'm going to go play over here, as opposed to realizing that they couldn't get what they wanted, and they failed to meet the bar. So I mean, that's what it really comes down to with all of this stuff, is it's people telling guys what they want to hear as opposed to the actual truth.
Okay, with your coaching, you have an end goal. Okay, you have an end goal for everything you coach a guy, whether it be fitness, finance, dating. What I'm trying to find in some of these channels, and even some of the black pill, and it's nothing against the black pill, to me it's a different philosophy. But a philosophy to me without an end goal is meaningless. What is the end goal of the black pill? So if you're not 6'5", have a chiseled jaw, you're not this, you're not that. So basically, what the fuck good are you?
Right.
I guess you go on a channel with other incels and complain about it.
Right.
I mean, everybody's welcome to their opinion. You know what I mean? So when I don't see an end goal, so what's the end goal? What's the end goal of like a black pill guy? Can you explain it? Because I damn sure can't find it.
The end goal for them is to fully realize that it's not their fault, to stop feeling the burden of performance, so that they can finally rest easy and feel like it's not their fault, like they were the victim, and that there was nothing that they could have done about their circumstance anyway, so it's not their fault. That's the end goal, is comfort. Their end goal is comfort. They want to be comforted. They can't get what they want. It's sour grapes. It's the oldest fable, one of the oldest tales of history. Aesop's fable, the sour grapes. They can't reach them, so those grapes must be sour. And they want comfort. And that's what we all want. We all want comfort. And so some people go about it by going and actually achieving what they want, and figuring out how to get it, and they're going to die trying. And some people go about it by lowering the bar so low that they achieve it by lowering the bar.
Yeah,
or removing the bar completely.
Yeah. So to me, it's like when I'll have somebody say to me, "Oh, Tony, you need to settle down," and just that word. There's a certain word in there, and it's settle.
Yeah.
It's settle. Settle down means, to me, that means you're settling. When somebody says that to me, that means I'm just going to settle for this. Right. I don't have to settle for anything.
Exactly.
I've got Carolina disagrees with me here. I'm not quite sure what it's about. I disagree with you, Mr. Tony. Talking to a woman is a social skill. I see game as a whole different thing. I kind of agree with you, but I don't really.
I think she's referring to being able to talk to people in general. Maybe that's what she's referring to. Talking to a woman is a social skill.
Yeah,
I think might be referring.
And then she says, confidence is a trait. For me, it's not game. If you need game, it's because you lack on confidence. I will say that Carolina's been watching a lot of MGTOW Dictionary. Just saying. And this. And nothing against Carolina, but this sounds right out of that book. I'm just, would you agree with me, John, or not?
Yeah, I read that book. So this is the thing. This is the thing about this, is that women have game. Everyone has a strategy for getting what they want. Some strategies are more effective than others, and some are more destructive than others, right? Some people get what they want out of life by stepping on other people's necks. Okay, some people do it by helping other people and bringing them along, right? So everyone has game, right? And everyone uses game. Some game is effective, like I said, and some isn't effective. So because we're all trying to get what we want, right? There's not a person on this planet that's not trying to get what they want, and we have strategies for doing it. You know, and so the thing is, like, yeah, social skills, learning how to talk to a woman, having confidence, those are kind of all attributes of who you are. But game ultimately is understanding like human psychology and understanding, you know, because it's not, see, this is the thing where people think that manipulation. So if you know, so I have game when I'm selling things online, right? And people could say, oh, well, you're just convincing people to buy something, and that's unethical, and you're trying to manipulate someone. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm trying to persuade someone to get something that's going to benefit them. Right? Like all marketing, all advertising is aimed at that. It's the same exact thing. Like marketing and game are the same thing, right? So when you go and you talk to a woman that you're interested in, how are you going to convince her that she should be interested in you, that you're a man of value, right? You have to, you're not just going to be upfront about it. You're not just going to be, you know, completely, you know, I would like to have sex with you, so you should, you know, I have a lot of money, and I'm a good guy, and I'm a hard worker, right? There's no, that's not what she wants. It's not very seductive. She doesn't want that to be a trend. She doesn't want it to be transactional. She wants to be along for the ride. She wants to experience and discover these things about you, and for it to be a romantic adventure with you, and understanding that psychology and understanding how you can lead her on that journey that she wants to be on and be that guy. Because every girl that you ever talk to, she wants you to be the guy. She really wants you to be that smooth guy, that is that charming guy that knows what to say, knows how to make her feel how she wants to feel, that knows how to sweep her off of her feet and do those things, right? But she's not just going to give it to you. So you've got to understand that dynamic, and that's where the game element comes in. And if you don't have that, you're not gonna. It's not just social skills. It's not just learning to talk to women. It's not just like, oh, you just learn how to talk to a woman, and if she finds you physically attractive, then it works out. Sometimes that happens, okay, but a majority of the time, that's not how things work out. And when things work out that way, if you don't actually know how to actually act as a man and how to be a masculine man in a relationship, you're going to be walked all over, because women intrinsically have game. Men have to learn it, but women know how to completely dominate a man because they have greater social skills, because they have a lot of this inborn. And if you're a guy that doesn't have game and you get involved with a woman, she's just going to, it's like trying to compete against an Olympic athlete at a and you have just, you know, run high school track. Like, you're just going to get the floor, you're going to get the floor mopped with you, because you haven't, you're not competing at that level. So I think that's the thing, is like, guys have to actually learn that, because they don't have it intrinsically where women do.
I have a question for John, real quick. Hey, John, are young men being taught game per se of the past, say like our dads and grandpas era, to achieve what they want with modern women in this day and age? Are they being taught old approaches, old strategies to deal with women in modern era? Is there an adjustment that men missed out on, young men had missed out on now? Because, and also too, are we dealing with a different generation of women as far as their mindset than what we used to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think both yes and no. I think my bigger answer is no for the most part. Like, fundamentally, our biology hasn't changed. Men and women are fundamentally the same that they've been for 10,000 years. Men are hunters, you know what I mean? Masculinity is masculinity, femininity is femininity. The feminine is attracted to the masculine, right? At a very core, basic level of human attraction, those dynamics. Women want a man who knows what he wants, who knows how to get what he wants, who is unafraid of rejection and what other people think, who uses his self as a compass for his life and his own judgment, who is courageous, who is who understands social dynamics and is able to lead other men, right? All of these kind of character attributes that
Has social dynamics changed over the years?
See, that's the part that I think the tactics have changed. But see, guys that focus on tactics, tactics will work for a short term, and they'll get you short term results. But if you understand the overall strategy, if you understand male and female dynamics and what masculine and femininity is, then you don't need to know specific tactics because you'll already be acting in the way that's appropriate to the situation. Right? It's sort of like if I taught you, if you're learning how to play chess, right? And I taught you, or you learned the overall mechanics of how to play chess, okay, and how to win at chess and what the overall strategy is, okay. Then you could play in a variety of different game positions, right? And you could win, you could do well. But I could teach you just how to do the Queen's Gambit, or teach you just how to do this opening move, or this, particular board situation. And there's, there's tutorials you can learn about specific strategies. And if you just learn those things, it would only help when you're in those exact positions, right? But it wouldn't help you overall. And I think what you're kind of alluding to is that a lot of guys today are being taught those specific things. Like, if a girl says this, say this. And sure, that's useful if you understand the bigger context of why, right? But those situational tactics, that's what I think most people think of as game, is what the old pickup artist type of thing of, of negging and saying something like that. But those are just tactics, and so those things will change over time, and it's not really effective to learn those things anyway.
Let me tell me, is this game or is this confidence? Now, me growing up, there was no cell phones when I went and wanted to talk to the girl when you're in your teens. You had to pick up that phone and pray to God when you called Sally Jones that Mr. Jones didn't answer. So you had to get through Mr. Jones to get to Sally.
Right.
I think that would change a lot of guys the way they speak to women. And in other words, do you see what I'm saying? So that dynamic has changed big time. Now guys just, text a chick, and then after the third text, they're sending back, she's sending him ass pics and he's sending her dick pics, which the parents know nothing about, I'm sure. But we all know that's happening. So would it change a guy if he had to go through Mr. Jones to get to Sally Jones, the daughter? Would that change a guy?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would require a higher level of courage. I think, one of the things that actually Rollo talks about this a lot is buffers, right? I think in his book, In Rational Male, he talked about the idea of buffers, and I really like that concept because it's so true. And like, texting is a form of a buffer, right? A buffer, and when I say buffers, I mean buffers against rejection, right? Yep. We have a lot of these, right? And so anytime you're using a buffer against rejection, it's a compensatory method so that you don't have to face rejection as harshly. And texting is one of those things, right? Whereas if you have to call on the phone and you might have to talk to, her dad, that's you're going to have to face that. Like, it's facing those fears, and so you're going to have a higher degree of success. So again, that's why a lot of times too, when I talk to guys and they're like, well, when I talk to girls at a bar or a nightclub, I don't get quite the response I do as if I just talk to them at the grocery store or the street. And it's like, well, because the thing is, like, in a bar or a nightclub, it's expected. Like, it's sort of like you're in the appropriate environment to do it, so you don't get any points for that. But if you just go up to a girl in a grocery store and you start talking to her, you suddenly get a bunch of points, because that takes some balls. It takes some confidence, right? It's like you don't have any alcohol. You're not in an environment like that. So it's eliminating that buffer. So I think doing things, and this is kind of interesting, because I have this whole theory on what makes things creepy, right? And it's not what, a lot of guys will say, oh, it's creepy if you make an advance on a woman and she doesn't find you attractive. That's what, a lot of the kind of black pill guys will say, but it's not true. Creepiness is when you put the risk on the other person. Okay. So for example, like staring at a girl from afar, it's creepy. Why? Because you're trying to get choosing signals. You're trying to, like, put the burden on her, right? As opposed to just go up talking to her like a normal person, that's not creepy, right? Guys that like brush against the girl, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like try to covertly like make some kind of physical contact. That's creepy. That's really creepy, right? But just going up and talking to a girl and putting your arm on her shoulder, something like that, just like it's normal, like, you know, without any kind of inhibition about it, that's not creepy, right? So so anytime that you're trying to like buffer yourself against the rejection, it comes off as creepy. And so being bold is the opposite. Anytime you're bold and you're putting yourself at a great personal risk, then it's not creepy.
Gotcha. Anything to say on that, man? I know I can see your mind is working, man.
Yeah, yeah. When you, like you said, when you put the risk on the other person, that's basically it's you're saying, hey, I'm a weak, insecure, afraid man, and that's creepy, and it's dangerous to a woman. It's dangerous to a woman, and so that automatically will creep her out. Is that this man's weak? This man is trying to put risk on me. Therefore, that's danger to me. And then it processes in her head as creepy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I like what you said about context, and that's the truth. I mean, you go to a nightclub or a roadhouse, and that you are in the context of that. In other words, women are expecting that, but also the context of whether it be a supermarket, and you do meet a woman in the supermarket or Walmart. That's a different context, and I think that's a context that definitely takes. I don't even think it takes a lot more balls, but I think how can I put this? I think that's something that is actually going to be more natural. It's going to be. I don't know if I like using the word organic, but that might be more organic than being in a place where the context is I'm here to meet women. I'm here to meet men. So, you know, the context is really important.
It's smarter too. It's smarter too. You do that in a place where the sausages ain't all flying around.
Yeah, that too. That too.
And so to me, that just doesn't rub me the right way. Personally, I prefer to be in an environment where I know the sausages aren't flying at her from every direction.
Yeah,
that's me personally.
That's kind of everywhere now. I'm just looking for some questions in here. True. I know there's quite a few questions. Let me see. Here's one from Carolina.
Let's see. What do you think is the cause of men not having success in the dating scenario? Okay. I mean, there's a lot of things, but one of the main things is that women and men are different in the sense that 80% of women want the top 20% of men, and they won't accept anything less. And so, but it's always been like that. See, a lot of guys try to say today, oh, with Instagram and dating apps and everything, it's made it harder for men. And it has to some degree, but women have always wanted the top 20% of men, no matter where they fall in the hierarchy, because that is the nature of women. And men have always been disposable. And that's why, you know, historically, men have died through combat. And so there was less men. And so, so that worked out. But when you have an abundance of men, then a majority of men are going to have no sexual success at all. And that's just nature. That's just how things are. And so that's why I tell guys, you need to become a top 5% man. And it's not that hard. You only have to beat out 19 other men. It's really not that hard, because 10 of the guys aren't even trying at all. You know what I mean? And if you actually get in shape, if you actually try to make something of yourself and build yourself, it's not going to be hard to beat out 19 other guys and be a top 5% guy. But I think really the biggest difficulty that men have is that they don't realize that it's not just going to come to them, right? I think so many guys think that, oh, back in the good old days, you know, in the 1950s or whatever, you know, it was just like, you know, there was just a woman for every man, and it just kind of happened. But that wasn't necessarily the case. I mean, maybe it was a little bit easier in that sense, but still, you know, genuine attraction wasn't the case. Maybe it was easier to get married to a woman who wasn't actually physically attracted to you in any way for security's sake. But is that really what you want, right? So for what guys actually want to actually, what I would define as success is to actually be in a situation where they're with a woman who's actually attracted to them in a sexual way. And in order to achieve that, they need to be in the top 20% of men at least. And so that's why it's so hard. And again, I think part of it too is just that, because men have much lower standards, women have much higher standards, and men have to compete. But that's the way of man. Men have to compete. We will always be in competition with other men. And if you can't face up to that and realize that you have to step up to that challenge, you're not going to have success.
Okay, now Carolina had asked this question earlier in the stream, and her last comment, I'm going to say she answered her own question. So at first she says, what do you think is the cause of men not having success in the dating scenario? Now I'm going to show this. So, well, there's your answer, Carolina. So as a woman, I don't even talk to strangers, which I don't know. I'm not really sure what that means.
She would talk to the right stranger.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think she's saying she doesn't initiate.
Yeah, I guess. So we got one more question here. It's from why do some people constantly lie? Is it a habit or a psychological issue?
So I want to say one thing about the other thing first, but which is that as a woman, you don't have to initiate conversations with strangers. As a man, you do.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why it's so much harder for guys, is because if you can't do that, you're not going to have much success.
Well, if there's a woman there, I mean, and somebody you haven't met, I mean, wouldn't that be considered a stranger? I mean, we can go down a real deep rabbit hole right now. So, yeah. I mean, where do you draw the line at a stranger? Say you're pumping gas and a woman will, look at you or say hello. Is that should you progress there? Which I would have no problem in progressing. So Carolina says, no, I'm in a supermarket. If a man approaches me, I don't even talk to him.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that. I'm
going to call bullshit on it too.
Yeah.
I got to agree with you there. Yeah.
It depends.
I'd like to add something to that. Real quick, not to change it, but
you there, man? I don't know where he went.
Oh, froze up there.
So, but I mean, man, are you there?
Yeah, did I freeze up?
Okay, yeah, you're back now.
Okay, carry on. I'll touch back on it later.
No. So again, Carolina says no in a supermarket. If a man approaches me, I don't even talk to him. Well, I really think what she's saying is if the man she doesn't like approaches her, she won't talk to him. But if somebody that she's attracted to, she'd talk to him. Guaranteed. Yeah. Guaranteed.
Well, and what it will come down to a lot of it, which is ironic, is that how much game that he has. Because if he has a good amount of game, it'll be so smooth and so natural that she won't even realize what she's doing.
I think very few guys are approaching women in real life scenarios nowadays. But I mean, that's just my feeling, my observation. Men are approaching women online. They're not approaching women in real life situations.
Yeah, but this is the issue that I have. There's women everywhere. There's women everywhere you go. There's so many opportunities not to be creepy, not to be in a bar. You can say hello to a woman and start a conversation with her, whether it be, like I said, I'm just making an example, the supermarket, a gas station. For me, I could be sitting at the beach. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities for men in the normal world that I'm the guy that's always had a hard time understanding why guys have a hard time meeting women, I don't even like the word picking up women, but whatever. I just never understood that, but I understand it now because of social media. I mean, you can get the 500-pound woman. I'm sure her inbox is full with thirsty dudes.
I think social media and the internet has just made it so easy for guys to not have to approach women in real life, that they just, the idea of approaching a woman in real life sends godly shivers down their back that they won't even.
Oh, we're losing him.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I think I'm not sure if his internet is messing up, but yeah. So you know, John, are you there? You went.
Yeah,
too?
I'm
There you
here.
go.
Okay. I was just checking my battery here because I had to charge it. But.
All right. So you know what? There's so many philosophies in this whole manosphere thing, and you know, I like to. Obviously, John, you do too. You like to dive in to the different philosophies, and I like to call them philosophies because the word philosophy, I believe, is the search for truth or wisdom. So every whether it be I'm sure there's no purple pill or blue pill philosophies, but your red pill philosophy, your black pill philosophy, your MGTOW philosophy, they're all different. But again, when I get back to it, to me, I really do look for an end goal. And I think that's real important. I want to see a finish line. I want to see a finish line in any. Now, that's one thing I like about you, John, is you always give guys a finish line. In other words, you can get to the end of this. You can get the girl. You can build the business. You can transform your body. That to me, that's what better, you know, I don't give a shit. I'll use the word confidence. That's giving a guy confidence in himself and what he's doing, and the confidence to move forward, I think is the most important thing, because I think guys have problems taking those steps forward. So, you know, I think you have a lot to offer for guys. You know, and I'm going to say, I met you personally. I was impressed. I'm a guy where when I meet somebody, and again, I'm a little older, but I do have some wisdom, and I have this ability to pick up somebody who's not genuine or a fake, or somebody I feel when I feel uneasy around somebody, to me, that's kind of a bad sign. When I met you, I felt like I've known you forever. I remember the one night you actually saw me probably in a position where a lot of guys haven't seen me, where I was a little bit fired up. That one night, and that is very unusual for me. So you saw a Tony Bruno that a lot of people don't see, but I had a reason why I was in that position. And I remember specifically talking to you about it. And I felt like I was with somebody I knew for, like my whole life. Yeah. And to me, that's genuine in a person. So, if I thought that you were disingenuous or somebody who wasn't honest and didn't feel like you're not helping people, you wouldn't be where you are today. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Tony.
Yeah, and that's the truth. I mean, there was a ton of positive feedback that you were there, and the way you interacted with everybody. It was just you can tell when somebody's genuine and when somebody's not. It's different when we're all like this. But when you meet a man face to face, you get a whole different vibe from that person.
Yeah.
And I hope you got the same vibe from me, that I am who I am. I'm genuine, and one thing that I care about is I care about men and their journey, and I do care about women and their journey also. So I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe we'll wrap up with this. I think you do, when you said leave a woman better than you found her, to me, that tells me you actually give a shit about a woman and their journey also. So tell me about that. And there was also another thing that you had said when and this is kind of rare. You don't hear this in the manosphere, but too often. You were the first one I've ever heard say this, but you could actually fall, I guess, experience love for a night. Am I putting it the right way?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what it, what's kind of missing from a lot of the guys in the manosphere and kind of the red pill and kind of the philosophies here is the humanity in it. Like we've sort of kind of reduced it all down into strategies and into the way things are, instead of understanding the what we're built on earth to do, which is to connect with other people, right? To have meaningful experiences and connections with other people. And so when I talk about this, what I'm talking about is this idea, and it requires a certain level of emotional mastery, right? To be a man, I talk about there's like three phases of emotional mastery, right? So the first one is what I call wearing your heart on your sleeve. We all kind of start there, where we're basically like, pouring out our feelings, our actions are completely, we fall in love, we put a woman on a pedestal. This is kind of the blue pill type of thing, and we become this mess, this super nice guy. When we're angry, we're angry. When we're upset, we're just like a baby, right? And then what ends up happening is you get your heart broken. You find out that strategy in life doesn't work. So then you move to the second phase, which is being emotionally numb. You figure out if you don't feel pain, then you can't be hurt if you close off. But when you do that, you close off your ability to love as well, which is not only important, but it is a very masculine attribute. As men, I believe that we are to give our gift of love to the world. I think that's a very important part of being a man. And we lose that. And so many of the guys that are caught up in the MGTOW and red pill philosophies, they have been hurt from the level one. And so they have developed this sort of cold aloofness where they treat women as if they're objects, and that they're worthless, that they're not human. They dehumanize. This is one of the things that I really dislike about a lot of MGTOW guys, is they dehumanize women and they dehumanize men that don't agree with them. And that's the first step before committing violence against a person historically, is that you dehumanize them first. And so, but it comes from pain, right? So that second level of emotional mastery is you figure out how to stop being hurt, and that's to close off everything and to see it all as transactional, and to dehumanize people, and to shut off your ability to love, which prevents you from being hurt as well. But what I believe that we should aspire to is what I call the third level of emotional mastery, which is feel the pain, keep on walking. This is kind of the stoic approach. This is where you reopen yourself again emotionally as a man, right? Again, now at this point, you're not acting on your emotions. See, this is the key. You're not acting like phase one, where you're wearing your heart on your sleeve. You're experiencing your emotions, you're processing them, you're open again as a person, but internally, and you're processing them, not holding them in, not repressing them, but experiencing and letting them go. But in order to do this, it requires non-attachment. You have to be able to not be attached to things, to just accept whatever happens and be okay with it, right? So this is where it kind of ties into what I was saying about falling in love, like even for an evening, for just a night. It's the ability to say, okay, I'm as a man, maybe you fall in love with this beautiful girl, and maybe you're only with her for a night, and then you're just willing to let her go the next day, because you're willing to just have that experience as it was, and you don't need anything more from that, because you can only be there when you have what you need, right? When you internally come from a place of non-neediness, of abundance, right? Because you can't give what you don't have. To truly love, you have to be selfish. So you have to take care of your needs first, and you have to be fulfilled as a person first, to be complete, to have developed yourself. But when you reach that point, then you can live life with non-attachment, not attached to anything, right? And basically, and that's how I try to live my life, is because, you see, I don't own anything. Like, nothing belongs to me in this world. Even the atoms that make up my body do not belong to me. They will return to the ground where they came from. I'm only borrowing them for the time. The money that I have in my bank account, I'm only borrowing it for a time. People that are in my life, the relationships that I have, they're only here for a short amount of time, some longer than others, but they're not mine. I don't own them. I don't own anything. Everything is a gift that's given to me, and I can enjoy that gift. And because I see it as a gift and not something that I own, I can freely let it go, and I don't have to hold on to it and feel a loss when it leaves. And I might have experienced some kind of sadness. Obviously, I don't want to lose, money in my bank account or have bad things happen to me or lose certain relationships, but I can experience that grief and then move on and not dwell on it and not feel like I lost anything, because I only gained from having that thing and gained from taking a breath and having the experience of life. And so, tying it all back into the male-female relationship and with men treating women correctly and leaving a woman better than he found her, it comes down to that. It comes down to opening yourself, being able to fully experience love, to be able to fully express yourself, but not be attached. And when you can do that, then you're giving a woman a good experience with what she wants, and you're having a good experience, and you're actually having a deep connection with something that's actually meaningful. And maybe it lasts longer than that. I'm not saying that it has to be just a night, but what I'm saying is that there's no attachment, there's no requirement. You're not trying to get something from someone. You're only giving from what you're overflowing from abundance, and you're not requiring anything back. And that's what I aspire to teach men.
Well, John, I think this has been awesome, man. I like your philosophies. Again, everybody I think has different philosophies, but I think you have a real positive attitude toward men and toward women, which I think is something rare in the manosphere. I don't want to call it rare. I'll say, like Jesse says, not all, but most. You have a good attitude on life, a good attitude toward women, and a real attitude toward, I think, relationships, which is real important. It's a realistic attitude, and I think it's a real honest attitude, but mostly it's real. You're saying a lot of things that I think a lot of people want to get out of their mouth, but they're afraid to say it. So,
yes.
Man, anything you want to say, and we'll wrap it up. Any last words?
No, I think I just about covered on topic. I wanted to give John a little shout out and appreciation. I do recognize that authenticity that Tony was speaking about, and I'm not just saying that. That's truthful. So yeah, man, I just wanted to give my appreciation towards your work and all that you're doing out here. I like what you do. I like what you say, and I appreciate your time being on the show as well. Yeah,
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
John, how can everybody find you? What is your social media? And I did put a link for your YouTube channel in the description of this video. So that's already been in there all day long. So how can everybody find you?
I'd say, the best thing to do is to go to bulldogmindset.com, and there'll be a little pop-up that comes up that asks you if you want to take the Bulldog quiz to see what your Bulldog score is. And of course you do, because you want to know what your score is. I'll give you a score from 0 to 100. There's 10 questions on there, and I'll tell you, where you stand. Do you have the victim mindset? Do you have the Bulldog mindset? And then I'll give you some help to raise that score. So bulldogmindset.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, John, I appreciate your time tonight. I do. I know you got family that you're with, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, man. I appreciate your time as always being on here, and it was a good time, guys, and let's do this again. John, you are welcome anytime. We do a Saturday night from 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to, I don't know, sometimes 2, 3 in the morning. So they run pretty long. So feel free to jump in anytime. And I do appreciate you coming on tonight. You've dropped a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, and I'm sure a lot of men and women will get a lot from this broadcast tonight. So
awesome.
Appreciate
it,
brother.
Tony.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys have a good one. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
all right, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care. Have a good night.